Justice Barrett.
So, Mr. Mupan, when Justice Kagan started asking the questions early on about the as-applied equal protection challenges, she pointed out that there was kind of a surprising dearth in the case law really grappling with this. But I think you wouldn't be getting all the questions that you're getting about Caban and Lair and, Michael Lamb and VMI if it weren't the case that you can read some lines of cases either way. So let's say that there is this.
So let me address this super chat here. Deisenhower, $5 says, I thought as applied was only for individual parties. Why are we talking about classes? It's an indirect argument, and it gets a little complicated, so bear with me. We have these different levels of scrutiny. Strict scrutiny when there's a core constitutional right involved, and intermediate scrutiny when it's not a core right. So when there's strict scrutiny, the legislation that's allegedly infringing the core constitutional right has to be laser focused on a particular issue. So whatever it's trying to capture, it has to capture close to 100% of it. And if there are parties that feel they fall outside that laser focus, under strict scrutiny, they can bring an as-applied constitutional challenge. Yes, generally this law is constitutionally sound, but for me, my exceptional circumstance, it should not apply to me. But when we're talking about a law that touches upon a not core constitutional right, it doesn't have to be laser focused. It just has to be pretty good. It has to be pretty focused. And invariably, when that's the standard, it has to capture 80% of what you're targeting, for example. That means 20% fall outside the scope. And that's permissible under intermediate scrutiny, which is what applies here. And if you were to say every one of those 20% that falls out the scope can bring an as-applied challenge, you're applying the strict scrutiny standard of laser focus, saying it's wrong for it to be more general in an intermediate scrutiny environment. And effectively, you would make the courts invalidating laws. Because if everyone can just go and say, 20% of the population can go and say, this shouldn't apply to me, that's not how statutes work. And the courts are supposed to defer to the legislature on intermediate scrutiny statutes. They just have to fit good enough. And so they should be very rigorous about allowing for as-applied challenges, because then everyone can just exclude themselves from virtually every law. It would be chaos. Now, what they are saying is if the statute isn't 80%, if it's only capturing 50% or 30%, then there's so many people who should not fall within the bounds of the law that maybe then you allow as-applied challenges. In fact, frankly, the law should just be found. There's so many that there's an argument to be made there for as-applied in intermediate. But not in this context. This law is very narrowly focused. The as-applied people would be a fraction of 1% of the population affected, and it is intermediate scrutiny. It fits good enough. It fits the 99% of people that are influenced by this law, and that's by any Supreme Court precedent. That's a sufficient fit for intermediate scrutiny that should exclude as-applied. It is frustrating from the perspective of myself, a Second Amendment advocate, a gun guy. I can tell you there's dozens of gun control cases that are working their way through the federal courts, things like concealed carry permit laws, magazine capacity limits, all kinds of stuff. And the Supreme Court just refuses to hear them, refuses to hear all these cases that incontestably touch on a core Second Amendment right, a core right of the Bill of Rights. Strict scrutiny would apply. And the Supreme Court just won't hear them. Instead, they're spending hours yesterday, and of course, many thousands of hours of other people's work leading up to this oral argument yesterday, hearing this nonsense. Yes, it's frustrating. Very frustrating. There we go.
Uncertain, but I think you wouldn't be getting all the questions that you're getting about Caban and Lair and Michael Lamb and VMI if it weren't the case that you can read some lines of cases either way. So let's say that there is this uncertainty. We haven't really confronted it. As far as I can tell, it's because it just wouldn't be relevant in strict scrutiny because it's often fatal in fact, or typically almost always fatal in fact. So it's really an intermediate scrutiny problem. Maybe it's a rational basis problem too. I mean, maybe this would have implications for all kinds of review. Because it seems to me that if you're never talking, in any case in which scrutiny is not talking about a perfect fit, you might have this problem. What would it do, essentially? I'm just trying to think about the ramifications of allowing as-applied challenges. It seems like it's at war with the theory of intermediate scrutiny for some of the reasons that Idaho said, because all lines, all classifications overshoot or undershoot, right? So can you imagine how intermediate scrutiny works? And this isn't designed to be a layup or something. It's honestly just something I'm grappling with. How would it even work going forward?
So I'm not sure I can say a whole lot more than what I've already said, which is I do think it's a problem. The reason I think it's a problem is it's conflating the difference between strict scrutiny and a perfect fit, intermediate scrutiny and a reasonable fit. And I worry that if you allow as-applied claims to a small enough group, you're essentially collapsing the difference because you're essentially requiring a perfect fit. Because whenever you have a reasonable but not perfect fit, the subset who falls within that will come in and bring an as-applied claim. And so the state will essentially have to have perfectly tailored laws because any single person for whom you don't have a perfect fit could come in and bring an as-applied challenge.
Including, say, boys who just couldn't make the team because they weren't good enough, because the law, to the extent that it's designed to protect competitiveness and safety, et cetera, wouldn't pose the same danger in the case of a boy who just isn't good enough to make the male team, but perhaps could make the girl team.
At least arguably, depending on what their exact theory is for the justification.
Thanks.
Justice Jackson?
Yes, I'm still struggling to understand why the state would have to have
She did it again. She's still struggling to understand. I don't think it's possible for her to not say that phrase. I don't understand.
Justice Jackson?
Yes, I'm still struggling to understand why the state would have to have perfectly tailored laws. I would think the state would just have to make exceptions where people can demonstrate that the justification that makes the state's conduct constitutional doesn't apply to them.
So making exceptions is tailoring your law. That's literally what it means to tailor.
No, but from the standpoint of a facial challenge, when we're asking whether this law has to be stricken completely because it isn't, perfectly tailored. What we're doing is a different exercise in the as-applied challenge. We're asking whether, even though this law is overbroad, we're assuming it's overbroad now because you've got in there some people to whom it should not be applied. What do we do about that? What is the remedy that those people can get? And what I hear you saying is they get no remedy unless they can demonstrate that there are enough people that this is sufficiently overbroad that it's no longer something the state can do.
Right.
And I don't understand why that is. Why wouldn't, when we identify people.
Just cannot help herself. Within a couple of minutes, I made a note. Last one was 1 hour, 3 minutes. This is 1 hour and 4 minutes.
Right.
And I don't understand why that is. Why wouldn't, when we identify people for whom this law operates unconstitutionally, that's the premise, because now I'm in remedy, right? The premise is that you have a person who's successfully made an as-applied challenge. This, to me, unconstitutional. You say, too bad, unless you can show that it's also unconstitutional with respect to a sizable number of other people. And I don't understand why that's the case.
Because I don't agree with the premise that the law operates unconstitutionally as...
Again, where are we at now? It's like every minute. That was 104 and 30 seconds. Oh, my Lord.
Because I don't...
With respect to a sizable number of other people. And I don't understand why that's the case.
Because I don't agree with the premise that the law operates unconstitutionally as to an individual person just because it doesn't, the justification for the law doesn't apply to that person. That's what this court held in both Wynne and Michael M. It recognized that the justification that was put forward for the law might not be true for each and every person the law applied to. But this court said, that's fine.
And if we read Caban and Lair to say something different, if I disagree with you, then we just...
Well, Wynne is the most recent of the cases. So even if you read the cases that way, and Wynne is explicit about this. Wynne explicitly says, I believe it's, I'm not going to get the page number right, but Wynne explicitly says that we recognize that there are some men who were present at the birth of their child, who have a DNA test to prove that they were the father, that have been with their kids their entire life.
Yeah.
In fact, that was probably true of Wynne's father. Tough luck.
Okay, so Justice Barrett is worried, I think she said, about the implications of allowing as-applied challenges. I guess I am worried about the implications of not. Because as Justice Kagan said, we have consistently said that facial challenges are really hard to get, that as applied is really all there is. So now we're in a world in which you are setting up new barriers, in my view, to establishing an as applied challenge. So at the end of the day, is your position that, no matter how clear it is that the particular prescription is operating to disadvantage a particular group, that classifies you, treats you differently, you're just not going to be able to get a remedy for that individually anymore.
Let me take a step back, and then maybe this will help.
You idiot. Did you hear the unsaid you idiot? Let me step back and maybe this will help. You idiot. Let's hear that again.
Anymore. You're just not going to be able to get a remedy for that individually anymore.
Let me take a step back, and then maybe this will help. Laws that classify, in general, are subject to rational basis review. Now, there's higher scrutiny for classifications on some things. For race, we have strict scrutiny. For sex, we only have intermediate scrutiny. What that means...
Oh, my God. Do you realize what's happening here? This attorney for the Trump administration, for the United States, Hashim Mupan, is arguing before the Supreme Court of the United States, and he's teaching her what I taught all of you at the start of this show. He's having to teach her what strict scrutiny is, what intermediate scrutiny is. These are things you learn in first-year law school, and they're not very complicated topics, right? I taught it all to you in 3 minutes this morning. That this lawyer feels the need. I mean, I would say she should be properly insulted. If this lawyer was doing this to Clarence Thomas should throw him out of the damn court. but it's not Clarence Thomas. I don't think Ketanji Jackson, I'm not a biologist, how would I know what a woman is? I don't think she understands these concepts. That's why he's having to explain them.
Is classifications on some things. For race, we have strict scrutiny. For sex, we only have intermediate scrutiny. What that means is it is okay to have a classification that doesn't operate perfectly for each and every person. So it's not the problem is that it's unconstitutional, but there's no remedy. The point is that it is constitutional.
I don't necessarily
even though
think
it's
that's the takeaway. I think what that means is it's okay because we realize that in some circumstances, maybe even in many circumstances, this classification is justified. But when we can identify...
Listen to how strident she is. It's like she's been publicly exposed as arguing stupidly with someone much smarter than her, and she's losing emotional control. Listen to her voice.
A situation in which it's not, I don't understand why a person can't bring that challenge.
Well, I can't say anything.
Do you hear any of the other justices? Even the ones on her side. Do you hear Sotomayor speaking this stridently, this tense vocal cords? Kagan? Keep in mind, Jackson's in the position of authority here.
Better than in both.
Classification is justified. But when we can identify a situation in which it's not, I don't understand why a person can't bring that challenge.
My God,
She
can't help herself. The last one was only 3 minutes ago. Did I miss one? I just caught that last one. Oh, Lord.
Anything better.
Classification is justified. But when we can identify a situation in which it's not, I don't understand why a person can't bring that challenge.
Well, I can't say anything better than in both Michael and Wynn, the court recognized that there were people who wasn't tailored for, and they didn't give them a remedy.
Thank you.